Ah, Superman, the Man of Steel, the red blue blur, originator of all those is it a bird, is it a plane jokes. What can be said that hasn't already been said? Well, I'm not sure because I haven't ever listened to any of those dickheads talk about Superman. I should also be honest here and say that I am not a huge Superman uber fan. In fact, I only have a rudimentary knowledge of the character and his exploits, which is probably good for this review as I represent the majority of the population. We all know the gist of it. His planet blows up, he comes to Earth, he saves all of our incompetent selves from blowing each other up every 2 seconds. The thing about pop culture is being a part of it doesn't necessarily mean you're good. You're just known. I'm looking at you, Chernobyl. Well, seeing as I know people who think Superman is the shit, combined with the fact that I myself have watched a little retrospective on the character recently, I want to talk a bit about him. Anyway, I'll do the good stuff first. He's popular, he's well known, he's the ideal person, he's got really cool powers, and he's old. Not old like that cheese in the back of your fridge, old like classic. He's been around. The formula is tried and true, and something must have been good about it considering we're still watching it today. The problem is, most of these good things are also some of the bad things about him. Yeah, he's a classic. So is the T Model 4, but you don't drive it around every day. The problem with classics is as good as they are at the time, we have better stuff now. I mean, we aren't still using black and white tube TVs anymore for the nostalgic value. Today's media audiences require more out of a character than just being cool. Honestly, as far as characters go, Superman's pretty dull. I mean, he has every power in the world, for God's sake. Literally, the writers can just throw a dart at a board and say, Superman has that power today. And guess what? He has it. He's completely indestructible and unkillable. What kind of character is that? You can't get behind that kind of character. The whole point of rooting for a hero is that the hero is generally the underdog. They're up against impossible odds, usually things that are threatening themselves, people they care about, or more. Superman, on most occasions, is trying to save the world. Those are big odds, but to a guy who can do everything perfectly and is completely invincible and has no chance of ever being stopped, that's not exactly thrilling. And yeah, he has that one damn weakness, kryptonite, but guess what? Any other person on the planet could just pick it up, toss it away, and he's fine, so let's just get past that. Other than that one element that seems to be absolutely, completely fucking everywhere, he has absolutely no weaknesses. There's no way to hurt the guy. He's in-fucking-vincible. So let's take 5 seconds to understand what that really means. You never have to worry about the character because he's never in any actual danger. He can do anything he wants, and so putting him up against a normal human being with lots of money isn't exactly very fair. And his personality is about as one-dimensional as a standee at a movie theater. Come on, the guy's got a perfect face, perfect hair, perfect personality, and perfect invincibility. You really expect me to give a shit about this character? He's not relatable at all. I mean, look at a character like Batman, for instance. Yeah, I don't have lots of money, but I can understand psychological issues. I can understand questioning if you're doing the right thing. I can understand making mistakes, being human, feeling afraid for my life. These are things I can relate to. I can't relate to Superman. He's completely unrelatable. In fact, that's what makes Batman such a good hero. He's completely relatable, and he has flaws. Flaws is what make characters interesting. Are they going to overcome them? Are they going to change? How are they going to evolve? Superman doesn't change. He's the constant in the line of comic books. It never changes. You never question whether or not Superman's going to be able to save the world because guess what? He already fucking has 60,000 times. I guess you could argue other superheroes have done the exact same thing, but we're on Superman right now, so let's fucking talk about Superman. Beyond the perfect hair, perfect teeth, perfect eyes, perfect life, Superman also has other problems here. For instance, the love interest, Lois Lane. She's about as interesting as Superman, except without all the powers and booms and explosions to make him interesting. So, not. I'm not going to address that any further because it seems like that's just a minor story arc within the overall story of the character, which seems to be let's kick ass and save the planet. But getting past the absolute boringness and unrelatability of the character himself, let's move on to something more important. But I get the feeling this character has not been designed to be that stimulating. He was about explosions and booms and lifting cars and bending metal and having sex with 20 women at once. He was about your badass action hero that kicks ass and takes names. And what does every good action hero need? He needs a villain. In fact, Superman has tons and tons of villains. The only problem is, it's always the same villains. It's like the same 10 guys over and over and over. And yeah, occasionally one villain will step up out of nowhere and he'll threaten the world for like a day. Superman will kill him and he'll go back to fighting the same 10 people over and over and over. See, this is the problem with keeping an established character alive like that. It's because obviously he has villains. He has to have someone to fight, right? And fans like the villains. But guess what? If you keep bringing them back again and again and again, they cease to be scary. There's nothing scary about Lex Luthor threatening to blow up the planet for the 83rd time. He's failed every other time. We have no reason to think he won't fail this time as well. It just gets old. But yet, of course, you can't interject new characters, because as soon as you do that, the fans start bitching that this isn't normal. This isn't the way it used to be. This isn't as good as the originals. Well, guess what? If you like the originals, go fucking watch them. That's why they're there. They're not going anywhere. But the character needs to change. But apparently the authors feel the same way as the fans, because they refuse to change anything. It's all going to stay exactly the same. Also, why is it that all of a sudden, as soon as there's a superhero around to save everything, crazy people start coming out of the fucking woodwork? And not just normal crazy people. People with the ability to blow up the fucking planet. Where do they get all the money for these lasers? Who contracts people out to sell fucking huge lasers that blow up planets? Well, except for the Galactic Empire, but that's a completely different franchise. Anyway, but I guess you can't fault the character of Superman for fighting all these retarded villains. After all, it's not his fault. It's the same guys that keep popping up again and again. No, as we stated before, character development is not a big part of the Superman franchise. It's basically talk for a little bit, blow lots of shit up, talk a bit more, blow more shit up. And most of the people skip all the talking anyway. We're all in it for the action. And that's fine. You can be. The good thing about action is you have a character, you know what he can do, you know what he can't do, and you have to watch him go up against odds. Will his skills be enough? Will they be able to do it? Well, that's an interesting and fun, valid question. Problem is, you can't ask that with Superman because Superman has a new power every fucking day. Not to mention the powers he already has seem to conquer everything anyway. He's super strong, has laser beams from his eyes, he's crazy fast, he can fly, he can go to outer space, he can fucking breathe tornadoes. It doesn't even matter. He has enough powers that he can compensate for every superhero in the fucking book, then some. The problem with having so many existing powers, on top of having new powers added onto you whenever the writers fucking feel like it, is the fact that you're not interesting anymore. You're not overcoming anything. You've already got everything. You're the fucking villain at this point. You should be trying to conquer the Earth while some other guy tries to stop you. I mean, hell, he apparently even has the ability to fly so fast around the Earth that he can actually reverse time. So if you weren't already not worrying about Superman dying due to his, invincibility, just keep in mind the fact he can always reverse time whenever he feels like it. I don't know about you, but a character with a reset switch isn't exactly that thrilling either. If he fucks up, he can just redo it. And if the odds do happen to somehow get crazy high, although how they happen to get high enough to challenge a crazy man god is beyond me, but if they do, Superman can just go back in time far enough to those two Supermans, the one that went back in time and the one that was already there. He can do this ad infinitum until he has enough Supermans he can conquer the fucking universe. Then he can take all of them, defeat the bad guy, and then conquer the fucking universe. This is of course overlooking the glaring plot hole where all the people would fly off the planet in space when he stopped the fucking planet the first time. In fact, if he can go back in time, why doesn't that just be his solution to every fucking problem? Oh my god, there's a villain threatening the world. Go back in time 2 days and kick him in the balls before he can do it. It's pretty simple, actually. But I guess at this point I'm not so much reviewing Superman in the comics as I am Superman in the television show and the TV series, because that's what most people have seen anyway. Yeah, that's right, there's a TV series. It's called Smallville, and it's basically about Superman before he was Superman. And while that might initially sound like a good idea in theory, it's not, and here's why. As we stated before, Superman is not about character development. He's about big things going boom and a guy lifting a building over his head and throwing it out in space. Crazy shit like that. People love it. The problem is, in a show about Superman before he's Superman, he doesn't even have all his powers. That's right, he's gaining his powers as he goes. Yet he's still invincible the whole time because we couldn't possibly have him in any threat of actually dying. So yeah, basically we're watching Superman walk around a high school with a few of his powers, gaining 1 or 2 a season. Because obviously, if Superman was a bland character to begin with amazing powers, I'd certainly want to watch him before he had any amazing powers. Realistically, the show is just Gilmore Girls with a guy with eye lasers. And to be honest with you, people watching Superman because he can throw buildings aren't exactly interested in Gilmore Girls. Yeah, you get to see the origin of a few villains and how he discovered a few of his powers, but overall, we're just treading water until we can think of something interesting to do with Superman in an actual movie. It's like watching Sixth Sense already knowing Bruce Willis is a ghost. There's no fucking point. We know how it's going to end. Nothing that's going to happen in this is going to change absolutely anything that happens afterwards. Whoever's dead is going to die, whoever's alive is going to live, and that's how it's going to be. Basically, the only two people that could possibly watch this show are comic book geeks that like Superman and people that like shows like Dawson's Creek. The problem is, people that like shows like Dawson's Creek don't usually want eye lasers in their show, and the people that like Superman don't usually like angsty teenage drama in their show. It's like Reese's got the peanut butter and the chocolate, except the peanut butter was mayonnaise. I'm sure they're both good on their own, but together they absolutely suck. So I guess what I'm saying here is overall, as a character, Superman is pretty lame. I mean, realistically, you can't care for a character you can't relate to, who can't be killed and is in no absolute danger, and whose only real redeeming factor is the ability he can do pretty much anything he wants to at will. Which, while interesting at first, gets boring eventually. Yeah, when you're 3, you really like to see a man who can do absolutely everything, but when you get older, you want more character development, you want more heroism, you want more difficult choices, and Superman doesn't offer any of those things. He doesn't even try. But if you're a fan of Superman, then you already know all these things, and you're willing to accept it without them. And that's fine for you, but for me to give a damn about a character, I have to actually care about what they've been through, what they're going through, and how their future's gonna be. And a guy that's completely unstoppable, immortal, doesn't exactly give me that to work with. So if you like things going boom and a guy that can do pretty much anything, go ahead and give Superman a try. You're not going to have any plot or any character development, much less anything original, but you know what you're going to get. You're going to get Superman. It's reliably fun entertainment, if not very deep. But for anyone who wants personality in their characters, you might be better off checking out someone like Batman, or even Spider-Man, as long as you're not watching the third fucking movie. As a final addendum to this video, to all those people out there that are screaming, but Superman can die, he did. Yeah, right, he did, but he really didn't because he's still alive at the end of it, so he didn't really die, did he? He's just fucking immortal. He's waiting in the goddamned ice cave to come back. That's not death, that's just being fucking lazy.